Hey guys, and welcome back to another Arma 3 video. Compositions are one of the incredible updates that Bohemia included in the 2.0 platform update in October of 2020. These compositions save a shit ton of time for mission makers and are a lot of fun to see just how creative some folks can be. Maybe they don't make mods, but they can make the shit out of a NATO forward operating base, or maybe they just felt like including some awesome synchronized triggers to help spice up your missions. Whatever the reason, compositions are probably one of the best recent additions to Arma 3, and in this video I'm going to cover 15 of my favorites so far this year. As always, timestamps and chapter marks are down in the video description below for your reference. Before I dive into the list though, for those that don't know how compositions work, allow me to explain. You simply need to navigate to the Steam Workshop the same way you would find any other mod, except when filtering, you'd want to click on compositions to the right. Click subscribe on a composition you want to add to your library and start Arma 3. These aren't loaded mods like you're used to, and don't require being activated like regular mods. So, to get to your compositions, open the editor and then hit F2 for compositions. Then navigate to the right and click on custom. Down below will be all the custom compositions you've made yourself. As you can see, I've made a few. And then right below it will be your Steam subscribed compositions, which will break down into their own subcategories that the creator deemed them to be in. Now you just simply place them in the editor, and that's that. Some of them will come with instructions on their Steam pages if, for example, it uses specific variable names to get the triggers to work, and things of that nature. It's always important to pay attention to what the creator is telling you in their description so you can avoid any unnecessary frustration when trying to add it to your own mission. So with that little bit of instruction out of the way, let's get right into the list. Starting us off at number 15, we've got Improvised Bunker 01 by Heracles Jones. This is a wonderful little bunker that uses vanilla objects to help build a scene and reinforce an area in your story. Perfect for one of those holdout or fallback locations in a scenario, or if you want to get some screenshots of idle troops at a defensive position. Simple and low impact on performance, many of these can be placed in a scenario and have almost no impact on your mission's FPS. At number 14 is Small Fortified Trench version 2 by Pyro. This is a seriously cool defensive position that uses all vanilla assets. Trench warfare isn't a tactic we'd left in the past. In fact, it still exists on massive scales to this very day, but has definitely evolved based on the area of operations. This bunker system has two small detailed bunkers and a detailed trench that opens and forms a T. The AI doesn't seem to have too much of a problem in it, but it's definitely intended for use by human players. Placing a couple of these to form a defensive line is a very cool tactic and is super ominous if you're on the offensive against these. At number 13 is AI Salute Player in Trigger Area by Jags. This composition helps your players' immersion while in mission should they be playing the role of a commissioned officer or a high-ranking official. What this composition has are a few trigger areas that, when activated by the player or anything else you'd like to change the script to, the NPCs will render a salute when the player is in the trigger area and drop their salute when the player leaves. You can change the location and angle of the soldiers in trigger area to suit your mission's requirements. A fun little dive into immersion that's always welcome in missions. At number 12 is Small Military FOB by Roman. Now, Roman is a creator that spends hours and hours building these incredibly detailed compositions. I really appreciate the attention to detail he puts into all of his compositions. This amount of detail will definitely have an impact on performance. However, to counter this, he's made most of the objects either dynamically simulated or just disabled them by making them simple objects to save on performance. Two of these compositions in a mission will definitely be noticed, but I'd say it's almost worth playing Arma on a slideshow based on how incredibly immersive and detailed his compositions are. This FOB is one of the best I've ever seen on the workshop, as are all of his compositions. You should definitely give his workshop a look if you haven't already, and just see what he's got out there for you. At number 11, we've got Threaten AI to Talk at Gunpoint by Benchmark. This is for those law enforcement role players out there, or even the special tactics guys that want to take an informant or a wanted person captive at gunpoint. By using some scripting wizardry, Benchmark has allowed players to add their own custom voice work to it for added immersion. You can also change how close or how far from the NPC you need to be. Benchmark is pretty active about replying to comments, so if you have questions, you should definitely hit him up in his comment section. At number 10 is Fortified Vehicle Position by Antares. Now this is one of the only compositions I'm including that needs a mod to function correctly, which is Cup Terrain's Core, which is needed to get the foliage and grass that comes as shown on screen. However, you can add vanilla foliage and shrubbery if you don't want to add Cup. It'll just take you a little bit extra time. Antares is another composition maker that has a large portfolio of highly detailed base and structure compositions. This composition comes with a fortified vehicle parking slot as well as a command and control area behind the vehicle, and a small depot area for fuel and ammunition storage. These are absolutely perfect if you're wanting to make some awesome screenshots, which I'm sure you can make way better than what I'm throwing together here. At number 9 is Big Kaboom by Benchmark. I don't know how many times I've been making a mission that required a scripted explosion that I was too lazy to figure out how to get working. Thanks to Benchmark, we've got it now. You simply place down the composition and start the game. By default, the trigger is attached to a radio command activation, but with a little finagling, you can get it set to activate when friendly or enemy troops enter an area for that perfect touch. Benchmark has made his script with Blast Core in mind, so if you want explosions as sexy as this, I'd highly suggest grabbing Blast Core. A sound mod like Dynasound 2 or JSRS would also be good to have. It's just so satisfying. I love it when shit goes boom. At number 8 is Cruise Missile via Trigger by Jakes. A truly awesome composition that allows for on-demand cruise missile strikes using scripts found within the triggers. You can change the trigger activation definitions around to suit your mission's needs. Naval support is a bit of a rarity when it comes to Arma's assets, so I'm really glad this composition is available for us. By default, the composition just comes with the launcher itself, but you can place it on a destroyer for added immersion if you so desire. This one was a lot of fun to play around with. At number 7, we've got one of the more unique compositions, and that's the Altis Space Elevator by Thoroughfare. Any fan of Ace Combat will immediately recognize this behemoth, and it is indeed monstrous in game, clocking in at a dizzying 13 kilometers tall. It was designed with a small port that can connect directly to Pier Ghosts in Altis, but it works just fine as a standalone elevator anywhere in the map. This bad boy will indeed kill your FPS on a mission with a lot of assets on it, so I'd advise to make them dynamically activated in simple objects where possible to save on those FPS. At number 6, we've got Wooden Gun Rack by Antares. A simple yet welcome addition to the composition side of the house. Gun racks are largely missed from the vanilla assets list, but now we've got some to place in our FOBs and arsenal rooms. The weapons are all functional and available for use. You'll want to ensure that before you move the composition around the map to fit it into your mission, that you disable vertical and surface snapping. Otherwise, the assets that are turned at an angle will immediately fall flat and screw up the entire composition. This holds true for all compositions that have specifically placed and angled assets. So it's pretty safe to assume just to turn those off anytime you're placing any of these really detailed compositions. At number 5 is Logistics Vehicles by Expunged. Another great composition for immersion's sake, or for those that want to get some good screenshots of bases in action. This composition brings with it multiple logistics vehicles full of supplies, ammunition, and other cargo. This will save mission makers a ton of time since they don't have to go back and forth between all the menus to make a realistic looking supply convoy. It's all in one place. At number 4, we've got Fortified Machine Gun Position by NFC3 Spectro 1911. Spectro, like a lot of these awesome creators, makes a ton of incredibly detailed compositions. He focuses primarily on base infrastructure and additions. The Fortified Machine Gun Position is pretty awesome and comes loaded with detail. Again, perfect for those dope ass screenshots y'all are taking that I'm super envious of. The firing arc on the nest itself isn't super great, but it looks awesome, and looking sexy is half the fun in Arma 3. At number 3 is Training Hangar by Rossi.fa. Truly a Special Forces guy's wet dream, this hangar has everything they need to be combat ready for some CQB fighting. This also has training areas as well as some vehicles and gear for administrative purposes. It's pretty cool how much stuff's Rossi stuffed in this little hangar. I get some COD 4 FMG vibes from this training environment, and it makes me smile. At number 2 is BLUFOR Reinforcements UH-80 and Assault Team by Salaush. This composition is a massive time saver for a lot of aspiring mission makers that want to be able to call in reinforcements by helicopter using radio commands. You simply place the composition down and rearrange the aircraft, pick up and drop off locations, and you've got reinforcements ready to be called. Just know that once the mission starts, you can't change the location, so be sure of your pickup and drop off locations before you finalize your mission. And finally, at number 1 is Vehicle Factory by Jackfighter. An awesome little composition suited for armored warfare missions. This vehicle hangar has everything you'd need to set the scene for a tank or heavy vehicle oriented mission. Tons of little detail and lots of vehicle specific props to help immerse the player into the vehicle set mission. You could even throw in some troops with ambient animations to help make it feel alive and lived in. It's often the mundane and everyday things that, ironically, make Arma 3 super fun, and compositions like this one really add to that effect. Well guys, thank you so much for joining me today on my first list of compositions. These compositions take an enormous amount of time to create and require a lot of creativity and imagination, so my hat is off to all of these amazing creators for their hard work. If you guys like this list of compositions, I'd be happy to do up another list, as there are a ton of amazing ones yet to be covered. I'd like to thank my incredible patrons for all of their support. I would not have the community I have today without you guys, so thank you. And finally, I'd like to thank you, the viewer, for watching, liking, and subscribing, as it helps my channel more than you could possibly know. Thank you all again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.